Hare
Hare Krishna. So here we are doing another reading, and we're
Regent's Park.
Regent's Park. Happy to know we saw many devotees at the weekend.
Yeah.
Snani Yatra. Many devotees were saying that they were following and watching, so we just want to say thank you very much, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jargon stuff, so and share with friends if you think it's something nice. But anyway, the main point is to read Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and hear and chant Shravana Kirtan.
Okay. It's Canto 3, Chapter 10, Text 8.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Alright. Text 8. Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the whirl of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds, and later into 14 divisions. Interesting. So he went into that lotus from which he was born from. Text 9.
Because previously it was explained that everything was existing within the lotus. Of course, we know that all the planetary systems were in the stem, so he went in, I guess, to the world and down through the stem like that, and then expanded everything that was inside of it out. So
we're existing on a lotus. It's everything that we see.
Yeah, it's sprung from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu.
There you go. Text 9. Lord Brahma is the most exalted personality in the universe because of his causeless devotional service unto the Lord in mature transcendental knowledge. He therefore created all the 14 planetary divisions for inhabitation by the different types of living entities. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of all the qualities of the living entities. The conditioned souls in the material world reflect only part of those qualities, and therefore they are sometimes called Pratibhimbas. These Pratibhimba living entities, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, have inherited different proportions of his original qualities, and in terms of the inheritance of these qualities, they appear as different species of life, and are accommodated in different planets according to the plan of Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the 3 worlds, namely the lower planets called the Patala Lokas, the middle planets called the Bhurlokas, and the upper planets called the Swalokas. Still higher planets such as Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and Brahmaloka do not dissolve in the devastating water. This is because of the causeless devotional service rendered unto the Lord by the inhabitants, whose existence continues up to the end of Dviparada time, when they are generally liberated from the chain of birth and death in the material world.
Dviparada. Interesting. Any thoughts?
Yeah, interesting that these planets, Mahaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and Brahmaloka, they don't dissolve in the... I guess this is the devastating water, final devastating... No? Well, what water's devastating waters are these?
I would have thought it'd be the temporary devastation.
When this is the temporary devastating
when Lord
waters.
Brahma goes to sleep. So there's the end, which is the final dissolution when Lord Brahma passes. Then that's an entire annihilation. But there are partial annihilations at the end of every day of Lord Brahma. When he sleeps for 12 hours, then there's dissolution. So like that, so then everything is temporarily withdrawn into the Lord and then becomes manifested again. And it's described also that because there's a partial devastation, and that means each morning when Lord Brahma wakes up, then he goes through this similar experience again of like, where am I, who am I, what's going on, and he has to partially recreate the universe each time.
That's a bit much, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's my understanding, because it's described that there's the very first time when he's there, and then there's each morning when he reawakes. So yeah.
Okay.
Pratibimba.
You know some pratibimbas.
Well, we're surrounded by pratibimbas.
Bimbas.
Because there are it mentions that all these different species have manifested because of their kind of connection, because they're parts and parcels of the Lord. Then they manifest different aspects of the Lord's divinity. So, we're surrounded now. We've got 2 pigeons coming up. We actually stopped here because there was a whole flock of parrots, but as soon as we started reading, they disappeared. But there's also a bunch of seagulls and ducks, and you just see there's such a variety of species of life all around.
All right.
Okay, so
10.
Text 10. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O my Lord, O greatly learned sage, kindly describe eternal time, which is another form of the Supreme Lord, the wonderful actor. What are the symptoms of that eternal time? Please describe them to us in detail. Kala, time, akyam of the name. So the Lord is known as Kala, eternal time. Purport. The complete universe is a manifestation of varieties of entities, beginning from the atoms up to the gigantic universe itself, and all is under the control of the Supreme Lord in his form of Kala, or eternal time. The controlling time has different dimensions in relation to particular physical embodiments. There is a time for atomic dissolution, and a time for the universal dissolution. There is a time for the annihilation of the body of the human being, and there is a time for the annihilation of the universal body. Also, growth, development, and resultant actions all depend on the time factor. Vidura wanted to know in detail the different physical manifestations and their times of annihilation. Interesting. So this point of time, of course we know that there's the saying, time is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world, because time flies when you're having fun, and when you're with Krishna, then time, you forget about time, and time doesn't seem to pass. And because everyone more or less stays I lost my train of thought because of that message. They don't age. We don't age. They don't get old. They don't get sick. They don't. So you don't really have the same experience of time. Every day is just like a continuation of the next, and it's just like nectar. So time is conspicuous by its absence. But here, time in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Time I am, the destroyer of worlds, Kalosmi." So I am. He is time. He is eternal time. So like that. Anyway, big subject matter. Also, this morning I was listening to the Brilliant as the Sun audio book for Canto 1 by Krishna Dharma Guru Chintamani Dhammatiji. And I was hearing how Vidura, when he went back to, because of course the Bhagavatam's not in chronological order, so the first canto shows Vidura returning to Hastinapur to meet Dhritarashtra after he's already been on pilgrimage. Now, of course, the third canto, is all about, they're a little excited, these words, is all about Vidura's pilgrimage. So basically, after his pilgrimage, which means after this conversation with Maitreya, he goes back to meet Dhritarashtra, and they mentioned there that he was gone for 30 years. So I thought that was interesting. I hadn't heard that before. But they mentioned that it was about 30 years that he was on pilgrimage, and I thought, well, that's a long time to be on pilgrimage. But if we think about it, I mean, it wasn't like you can take a plane or a train or even an automobile, and he didn't ride a horse. He was just walking. So he was on Padayatra around India, and he went up to the north into the Himalayas. That's where he met, first he met Uddhav, and then Uddhav directed him to Maitreya. And then he talked with Maitreya for a long time, and then he had to kind of walk back, but he had traveled to other places before that. So, 30 years he was gone on pilgrimage before he returned, and he specifically, the only reason he went back is because after this conversation, he feels great remorse for his brother Dhritarashtra, and he wants to go and save him, so he goes back. And it's described in the first canto that he returns and he's all disheveled, and he's disheveled mendicant, I think they describe him like that, and because he's got a long beard and long hair and probably matted locks and things like that, and they didn't know who he was, but then the ladies recognized him, and so anyway, it's interesting to get the visual, the context, that here we're hearing about Vidura talking to Maitreya, but he's left Hastinapur, he's left the kingdom after Kurukshetra, and he's gone on walkabouts. Well, I think he actually left before the war. I think he also departed. He departed like Balaram. They both went on pilgrimage during the Battle of Kurukshetra. So like that. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about.
That's a long time away, because I thought he came back
after a couple of years or something.
No, not even that. I thought after the war, and he came to after say the conclusion, and Yudhishthira's on the throne, and he came back to say to Dhritarashtra, don't you feel a bit embarrassed to be living at the mercy of these people?
Well, he did.
Yeah, but I thought that was soon after. That means Dhritarashtra lived shamelessly under the care of the Pandavas for
some years anyway. But I guess in those days 30 years wasn't the same as 30 years now, because so that was Dwarpa Yuga, right?
Right.
Wasn't it Dwarpa Yuga? Yeah. So Kali Yuga only started after Krishna departed, which was then, but before that people would live, 1,000 years? Wasn't it? So 100 years, 1,000 years, and then Treta Yuga was 10,000 years, and then Satya Yuga was like 100,000 years.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, if you think you live for 1,000 years, 30 isn't really that much, So, Hare Krishna.
Right. Text 11. Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. Purport. The impersonal time factor is the background of the material manifestation as the instrument of the Supreme Lord. It is the ingredient of assistance offered to material nature. No one knows where time began and where it ends, and it is time only which can keep a record of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation, and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. Time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. Impersonal feature of the Lord.
The time factor is also explained by modern men in various ways. Some accept it almost as it is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, excuse me, in Hebrew literature, interesting, time is accepted in the same spirit as representation of God. It is stated therein, quote, God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. Okay. End quote. Metaphysically, time is distinguished as absolute and real. Absolute time is continuous and is unaffected by the speed or slowness of material things. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. Factually, however, time has nothing to do with the relativities of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. Time is the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future. But in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. Chanakya Pandit says that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of dollars, and therefore even a moment of time lost without profit must be calculated as the greatest loss of life. That's very nice. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities in themselves. Let me read that sentence again. Time is not subject to any form of psychology. Right? So it means time isn't, just because you have some psychological analyzation of time and the way things, it's not subjected to your mediocre thoughts. Nor are the moments objective realities in themselves. So we have a moment. So it means basically all the psychology stuff really doesn't have that. That's just our lens that's being placed on top of things. It's not that that's necessarily the actual cause. But they are dependent on particular experiences. Interesting. And that requires a bit more thought, but excuse me, I guess like that. It's not that my psychology, like what is it that Freud, his whole psychological application for a long time people believed that, but actually he's just trying to explain something according to his own frail mind. So anyway, maybe read the last paragraph. Sorry, we've gotten off onto a psychological thing which doesn't have anything to do with it.
Right. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, actions and reactions of the external energy of the Lord. The external energy or material nature works under the superintendence of the time factor as the Lord himself, and that is why material nature appears to have produced so many wonderful things in the cosmic manifestation. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 confirms this conclusion as follows. Maya ya dakshina prakriti sujayate charan hetu na nena kunteya jagat viparivatate.
Time will tell.
9.10, if you're going to look it up.
One of the most quoted verses by Prabhupada. Maya yakshina prakriti suyate sacharam hetunane nakunteya jagadvipari partate.
That's what I said. And on that note,
okay.
We'll call it a day because time is upon us.
Okay, thank you all very much for your continuing to join in. If you're interested in the set of Bhagavatams, let us know. We'll sort it out. And meanwhile, like, subscribe, and comment.
This isn't a YouTube channel. My husband's not so up with, so there is no like. That's on the Bhaktivision vlog, which is a YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's painful, isn't it?
Well, can people like or comment on this?
You can click like on the Facebook thing, and you can put a comment. I'm not sure how you subscribe, although you can follow, obviously, ISKCON London. You most probably do if you're finding this.
Well, there you go.
Right, let's just stop there.
All right. Hare Krishna, everyone.